Hello everyone and welcome to the 2Have 2Role podcast. My name is Oliver. Today Robin and I sat down and spoke to Ben, also known as AgentBSmith. Ben is a photographer who focuses on LARP. He goes to a lot of LARP events and does a lot of LARP photography. Some of my favourite shots of Robin and myself were taken by Ben. It was interesting to get an insight on what it's like to be a LARP photographer in the LARP space. Ben also live streams some of his photo editing, but is also a variety streamer, streaming video games and TTRPGs. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to thumbs up and subscribe. If you're listening on your favourite audio podcast platform, leave us a nice review and that'll help us out. And now we bring you the conversation. How it works better. I mean, what I would like one day is like how just have a studio, and we could just invite people in. Just,
legit.
Yeah, and just drink some ale, have some drinks, and
it was like recently we've been trying to do our year in review video. And how many takes did we do of this bit from start to finish? Because we did so many takes. And the start of it, we were like, yeah, that sounds great. Test is fine. And then the next day, Oliver went to edit it and he's like, this is all shit. We're going to have to do it again.
Yeah. YouTube is hard, Ben. YouTube is hard.
Yeah, I feel that on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
I tried the YouTube game with like piano vids and the occasional gameplay video. It did no. There's a reason why I stick to streaming.
Yeah, that's the thing. You get in your comfort zone. You kind of just stick with what you know, which is good in some respects, but in other respects you don't end up like branching out because you just go, oh, this sounds perfect. And with us, it was like, oh, we should really do a video where we're sitting next to each other. We're like,
we should do it.
We have to move all our stuff, you know?
Like, I wouldn't mind doing YouTube again if it wasn't for the fact that Premiere Pro is looking at me and cackling with evil glee anytime I open up the bloody thing because editing videos.
Oh, cool. Right, we're recording. I'm not going to do like an introduce yourself type things. I always just do a pre-recorded things just so we can get into casual conversation. But Ben, we know you mainly through LARP photography.
Absolutely.
What came first, the photography or the LARPing?
Absolutely the LARPing.
LARPing first.
When I was in university in Huddersfield, back in 2017, I'd met a few friends of mine who I played TTRPGs with as like a gaming club every Tuesday evening.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some people there that were interested in running a Vampire the Masquerade parlor LARP in the pub.
Yes.
And they asked everyone who was there if they were interested. I'm like, I've heard of this LARP thing. Granted, it's only like Knights of Badassdom or Community where it's like the piss take versions of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, sure, I'll give it a go. Why not? And honestly, just from like playing my first couple of games, I was hooked in all honesty. And that was only like a parlor LARP.
Yeah. How long ago was that roughly?
So 2017, so that's 5 years.
Oh, for 2017. Sorry. Yeah. So did you have? Did you have an interest in like RPGs and tabletop RPGs beforehand? Absolutely.
I have, mostly been a forever DM for 11 years. I started back in 2011, back in college.
Yeah.
It was weird at first because I did like the whole, theater thing as a kid. It was like, and then I tried it with D&D, and it was weird to get into it first, but as you get more experience, you get more used to it, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, all these different characters and ideas and such, I can roll with this, and it just basically snowballed from there.
Yeah. So you were a little, because we seem to be, every time we have a guest on, they're falling into like two categories. Either they picked it up at uni, or through the pandemic they played loads of 5th edition D&D and went, I want to do this in real life. I know you picked up at uni, but 2017, that's relatively recent, just compared to some of the other, I don't want to say old school LARPers, but some of the people we've had on is like, they did it years and years ago, and that's like the only way you could find it was through uni, Yeah,
absolutely. Like, so for some people, it's a natural progression. Like the older guards, the grognards, let's call them, they started with wargaming, which then evolved into TTRPGs, which then there was like the early LARPs like Lorien Trust and such, which really kickstarted the whole thing, and it just basically progressed from there, like 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. So we know you from Empire because that's the only LARP we've done.
Yeah.
When did you start in that system?
That was actually this year. This was my very first year
Wow.
on Empire.
Nice. So what systems were you doing before? Is this your first like festival?
Oh
LARP?
no.
No.
So when I did the PAL LARP in 2017 to like 2018, a few people there invited me to a fest LARP system they go to, which is Curious Pastimes, which is I believe like the third biggest LARP in the UK currently.
Yeah.
And obviously very different from the vampire game because you had like 600, 700 people on the field. At first, it was a little hard to get into, but it was really enjoyable again as the progression goes and you get more used to it. Because parlor LARPs, fest LARPs, there is a big night and day difference because you have so many different scales of LARP all around the UK. So Curious Pastimes was like my main one, and I kept hearing about Empire at it because 2017, that was a few years after Odyssey ended.
Okay, right, yeah.
Okay.
So there were people who did both, like my good mate Pixie, in Varushka, and he mentions, potentially trying. I'm like, oh, see, I'm currently doing uni and my studies, and currently I'm just there, like buried in books up to here.
And it's a lot of time and effort to split because. Like for us, like we want to branch out. We love Empire. We'd like to try some other systems.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
it's a
Curious
big
Pastimes. Join me.
Yeah.
Join us.
Well, it's definitely one we've looked at. Because we've spoken to a few people that do, like you said, do both. And I think we spoke to. I'm sure it was Curious Pastimes, the people we spoke to, Robin, at like What's Your Game last year.
It was
they were there.
Pastimes,
yeah, that's right. And so it looked great, and the people there were just like basically like, oh well, we crew Curious Pastimes, but we play Empire. So apparently there's like quite a crossover of people like.
There is a large crossover. It's why Laurie and Trust and Curious Pastimes usually don't run the same weekend as Empire because they'd all be there.
They'd all be missing your crew. There'd be no monsters for anyone to fight,
and a lot of the players. To be fair,
yeah. So when did you start? So the photography was that something you went to like uni for?
Actually, no. So my education career is. Extensive.
Life is a journey, my friend.
Legit. So I finished school in 2010. And through a combination of not a great time at school and just being a little crap that I was back in school, I only came out of it with a science at like C and above. So it was a case of, do I go into an apprenticeship and go straight into work, or do I try and be like, no, please give me the maths and the English and all the other stuff so that I can do other jobs.
Yeah.
And I basically spent 2 years extra in college. During my first year, I did a media course.
Okay, yeah.
Which I got a merit in, but one of the modules was photography.
Yeah.
Now, this was like a college back in 2011, so they didn't have like DSLRs or such. Those were still quite expensive at the time. It was just like one of these little compacts, like Samsung cameras with the 30 times electric zoom, where the 1 pixel at the 30 times zoom is a potato. So I was interested. I did the course. I was like, I enjoy this, and then just basically never touched another camera again until 2017. Again, 2017 was like a big year for me.
Yeah.
I have a very good YouTuber friend called Will who runs a channel called DA Games, like over 1 million subscribers, and he had an old camera that he didn't use anymore, just in general, just gathering dust, which was a Canon 70D, which at the time was a half decent, like not top end, but mid to high like DSLR. Which he was downsizing because he was moving house and he was just getting rid of a whole bunch of stuff. And he's like, what am I going to do with this? And I was just like, I mean, if you're not going to use it, I'll take it. I did a bit of photography. He's like, yeah, sure. So just got handed like at the time 700 quid camera plus like 150 quid lens.
That's a good start.
Nice.
That's a good
Yeah.
start.
So it was very much a luck on that stage, but like again, I spent a bit of time in 2017 into 2018 just getting used to the photography, like doing a whole bunch of test shots, which are all on like my Flickr. They're god awful, but I keep them up as like here's where I started and here's where I've gone.
Oh, it's always good to
Yeah.
it's always good to keep. Sometimes it's cringy because like every now and again I'll go, even though we've only been doing like this podcast for a year, I'll go and I'll listen to a few minutes of the first one we did,
Yeah.
and be like, whoa, okay, it's important to keep that there.
Yeah, like there's like the thing with podcasts and such, well, is you look and you hear yourself and you go ooh, because there's just that thing of like a lot of people just have this condition when they don't like seeing or hearing themselves, like when they're in like videos or streams and such.
A while to get over that, doesn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it really does.
But when you start editing, you have to, and it's just hours of you just repeatedly hearing yourself, and you just like yeah, and then you just get used to it.
Like,
Kinda
right, yeah, that's how I sound, right?
The first couple of times you just kind of like crumple inwards like a can for a few minutes before you get back to the editing. But going back to the photography section, like I actually started doing proper photography at events in 2018 because I remember I was in a whole bunch of different LARP groups, and there was one LARP group which is the UK LARP events. You may know it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there was a event called Erda, which at the minute I believe just doesn't run anymore.
Okay.
Which they were looking for potentially like a photographer and or just more crew. And I was like,
yep, me.
I can crew, I can photograph, throw me in chief. And they brought me along. I got a lift there because transport.
Yeah.
And essentially, when I got there, did a whole bunch of the photos. Again, very photos because it was like my very first like proper events, getting used to like shooting people for the most part, and in day, night, rain, and such. So it was
to learn, yeah.
It was a lot of just different sections, different difficulties, quickly that you had to get used to.
Yeah.
And it was just a natural evolution from there. Like I just photographed a few more of those events, posted up a bunch of the photos. Some people were like, "Oh, these photos aren't too bad. Want to come photograph our LARP?" And it just kind of again snowballed from there.
But it sounds like then you cut, like as a photographer, you cut your teeth on LARP. So it wasn't. Yeah. It sounds like there wasn't a transition from doing wedding photography where everything's posed and you're trying to obviously you try and capture moments of wedding photography, but you came in
I would never dare go into wedding photography that green in the time.
Yeah, it's I think it's a good moneymaker for the photographers, but yeah, it's just hard work, and it is just work. I don't know how many people get. It's just the breadwinner, isn't it? Breadwinner, moneymaker, should I say?
It is definitely my
There's an expression there.
Yeah.
There is an expression there. You've got the right elements.
Bread and butter. That's what I'm trying to say. There we go. It's people's bread and butter.
It is definitely the main income support of photography, because bear in mind, there's so many different kinds of photography that for the most part, you're not getting paid for it unless you are doing it for a publication or you are specifically selling the shots after the fact with a watermark like I do. It's very much a lot of the time you are just doing it pro bono, and if people like it, they might pay you for it, they might not. It's just the nature of it. Like I never got paid for any of like my early shots and such because it was really green photography work. Yeah,
well, you got to do the reps first, right? You got to do the reps before people will pay to come see you do the lifting.
Absolutely. I mean, at the time I'd done a little bit of photography as well with some charity work that I did with a group called Sentinel Squad UK, which are a Star Wars cosplay group in the UK that raise money for charity.
Oh, nice.
So there was a little bit of crossover with people at the time with them, and the two kind of like helped each other as the skills slowly grew. and taking it to like Comic Cons where I'd done a little bit of work at Comic Cons before I'd done the photography at like cosplay stages and such. So I do like the odd photo for them, or just attending a Comic Con and doing photography there. Because the thing I could say with photography, the easiest way that you're going to get better is just practice, 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 practice. Take as many shots as you can in all manner of different conditions, because then it'll just become second nature. It'll be like, okay, this is dark, so let's take it down to a 60th of a second. It's got a bit of backlight, so we'll kind of shift over here so we don't get just a black shadow with a light haloed around it. And it's just little things that you pick up the more and more you practice.
Yeah, little tips and tricks of the trade and everything. And then I guess putting something like that into LARP, because it looks really difficult in LARP, because obviously people are literally running around a field and swinging weapons. There's so many moving elements. I mean, is it quite a big difference doing that compared to like a Comic-Con or
absolutely for Comic-Cons, for let's say when I was doing the cosplay stage photography, it would be, the cosplayer would come out and they would, do like a pose or a skit, and it wouldn't be a case of, having the settings at like 500th of a second because they're moving like super fast with weapons, wailing on each other in a battle line to get a perfect shot of a sword here and the other face going, oh! It's one of those things that while the two are night and day, they do still have elements that cross over, like the actual, lighting situations, because obviously you can have like, when I did some of the Empire photography for the skirmishes, I did mine in the evening. So a lot of that comes into play with the low light photography, because a lot of like cosplay stages weren't really well lit. They had like maybe a couple of like spinning like disco lights with various colors that went off, and like maybe one like actual white light up above them, which
isn't not the best. Isn't the best. I mean, I guess in LARP you get that more from a model point of view. You're going to get something very much more organic, because let's face it, like most people don't know how to pose for photographs. Most people, when you say okay, they see a photographer, they just do the school photograph, like that type of thing. Which when we start, because that's where we kind of got into. We came in through via cosplay, so we did the whole dressing up, going to conventions, meeting photographers, and we don't know how to pose. So there was times where our photographer friends were like trying to get those moments out of us, being like, try and scream, try and
oh yeah, one of our friends got me to scream. I was dressed as Lagerther, so dressed as a Viking, and I was on a stage
doing like a proper battle pose.
He was like, and this was just like, this booth set up there, and he was like, I want you to scream as loud as you can. This was just a convention and people were just wandering around shopping, and then they just had to scream. The bottle was great, but I was very embarrassed.
But in LARP, you're catching those, and people don't know they're being photographed. That's the big difference, right?
Yeah, like bearing in mind, my photography is a mix of completely candid and the occasional pose, because there will be people that will just kind of like immediately clock a photographer and go, oh, my moment has come.
Oh, I clock you. I won't even lie. I know all your faces now, and I'll be like,
It's because you always nudge me. You're like, there's a photographer there, and I'm always like, whoa.
That came out as a really good shot though, because it was I think it was Neil walking along, and I went and nudged you, because we weren't doing anything. We were just waiting, looking at the enemy line, and I nudged you, and you went, what, like that, and then that shot actually came out quite well. It looked like you were
furious.
Like, So how do you how do you find those moments? Because there's, especially in like a festival LARP, because like Curious Pastimes is, you said like 800 people, that's a lot of people, and Empire is like thousands of people.
We've hit like something silly like 3,500 players as of like the end of this year, which is redonkulous.
How do you how do you find those moments, and at the same time are you very much aware, like the photographers in on the field, are you all very much aware of where each other are? Like, are you, or do you just like, but you just go, I'm just going to wander off here and see what happens?
So, for me personally, I am the Wanderer. It's why I named my character Varric the Wanderer, because all I do is just go around, see what's happening. And bear in mind, my first actual Empire event, I didn't actually pick up the camera basically at all, besides the Thursday. I went there to experience and play Empire for the first time. And then there was just so many moments where not much is going on. Oh, that's a really cool moment over there. Damn it. So it's one of those things that, like, there's always something happening, especially at Empire, because with 3,500 people, there is always something happening.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so many things, whether they are like incidental crew have come in, like doing, for example, like the assault on Senate that happened in the evening with the marchers.
Yep.
Where one of the egregores may have slightly carked it. But like, you get so many incidental moments like those, and then what I try and do, especially in my photography, because a lot of people, when they see AgentBSmith photography, they go, "That's thousands of photos." Because I try and get as many as possible.
Yeah.
Because
do you feel the pressure of like having all those people there, especially when people know that you are taking photographs, and people like sit on the forums being like, "Oh, I can't wait for a photograph of me." Do you ever feel the pressure of just like, "Oh, I hope I got everybody"?
So, bearing in mind, trying to get a photo of every single person is impossible. Whether it is because there's 3,500 people, just getting one shot of each person alone, just of the players, is more than I would probably take for an entire weekend of event.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people, and there's also some people cannot be photographed because of like reasons with work. They don't want it to be seen and shared because of whatever reason.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
I personally don't really photograph kids unless I have permission of like the parents and such, because, for example, I've done some work in the USA as a camp counselor and also a photographer. So I'd like to think I'm on it when it comes to safeguarding kids, because
it's very important. Yeah,
absolutely. And there's going to be so many photos here, you're like, "Oh, I'll take the shot of that, that's really cool." You check it like in the tent at like 12 at midnight latest, like check it. You focus on the background.
Do you ever have anybody come up to you and tip you off for like certain events that are happening? Like if there's maybe a wedding or something happening, and if so, do you like that when people give you a little tip that something's about to happen?
I personally love it when people tip me off, because yes, I may not be able to get to it, but if I see another photographer, I can let them know, because at the end of the day, people want to get shots of their cool moments, because LARP, a lot of its publicity and a lot of people's really good fondness of it is to look back at the event and look back at the moments of awesome things that have happened, whether for posterity, for if like their character dies later in the event, they can go, "This is the last really cool thing my character did before the skirmish that I died."
Good point. Yeah.
Or just like they really like, some people just love documenting their LARP journey over the years and just want to have every single photo of them ever. I know a few people like that.
Yeah, because it is an actual event, a bit like a wedding, where it's not just like, "Oh yeah, I'm playing a video game and I can just fire it up and play through it again." It's like somebody might have like spent a lot of money on that bit of kit. They did that bit of storyline, and that character's dead, and now the kit is gone forever, and the photo is the only relic they have of that moment.
Absolutely. Like, going back to the original question, like being able to hear about these moments that, "Oh, Dawn and Marchers are going to go and have a big raucous in like 20 minutes because they're going to have a fight over a bridge somewhere, Lamau." It's like
it's not just some bridge, okay? Let's just get that straight.
I don't get me wrong, I know that. It's like, the first time hearing it, like, they're going to go fight over a bridge. Okay, and then just like going and photographing the tournament for the first time back at like E2, it's just hearing about that. I would never have gone to Dawn to photograph it had I not been tipped off, and that's great because it means that is clearly documented, because I would consider myself a documentary photographer, because it's why I take so many of them, because I want to explore as much of the game, the town, the actual essentially feeling of the event.
Yeah.
It's why, again, I take thousands, is because there'll be a picture of someone just sat at a tent, just like having a sip of a coffee or something.
Yeah, it's telling a story, right? So you're telling a story through photograph.
And again, as we were saying earlier, with like the whole 3,500 people plus on the field, it might be the only photo of that person at Empire, whether that event, that season 2022, or ever. Yeah. I had someone in my messages after E3 who thanked me for having the only picture of him at Empire ever.
Oh, wow.
that does I can see that happening though, you know?
And it puts a pressure on one side. It puts a pressure on. It's like, that person needs more photos. At which point, like, I want to go and get more of people that deserve. Everyone deserves good photos. That's my mantra.
Yeah.
Every single person deserves good photos because they put the time, the effort, and their soul into their characters and their game. Yeah, some people go there to just go and have a drink and just socialize with mates that they haven't seen in ages or only see on the LARP field.
Yeah.
But it all deserves to be documented.
Yeah, it does. Do you do you think maybe you could basically say to people, like, if you, the more you throw yourself into the game, the more likely you are going to be photographed. Yeah, you'll probably get, there's going to be candid photos of, here's some people sitting down drinking tea, but if you're constantly kicking up the dust all weekend, it's probably quite likely you're going to get shot, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other side as well, is that there are some people that seem to always end up in the photos because they are there doing the thing, which absolutely fair. If you are taking the time to interact with the game, the plot, and always being where the action is, there is always going to be at least one or two togs there who are going to be taking photos of that moment. It's like when, like, the egregores, for example, open up the Sentinel Gate for the battles. Every single one of them gets loads of shots there. You know, whether Grud is throwing another human head in or whatever, or like...
It's one of my favorite parts about going out to battle at Anvil, is that moment where they all, I mean, we had on the Sunday last time because there was like 7 nations all at once. It took a while. 7 nations versus 3. it took a while to get through all the, like, we were getting hyped up, and then the next egregore would come up. But it is still one of my favorite moments then, when they're doing their thing.
Do you feel as well that with something like LARP, something that that always looks a wee bit cheesy if it's actually filmed, but in photographs it's so beautiful? Do you feel that you have a bit of a duty there to really show off how wonderful it actually is through photographs?
See, that's the thing. It can be wonderful in video. I've seen it done with Slender Pictures, who does video for Curious Pastimes. There are some great trailers of Curious Pastimes that he has made, and there'll be people that will consider it cringy because it's two waves essentially attacking each other with foam swords, screaming strike down or strength or whatever. But they are both equally as important, I feel. Empire, for me personally, I think Empire could potentially try videography to get like some trailers and such, because there's so much beautiful stuff that could be videoed. The various, like, you know, set dressing of all the tents that are around, the actual town itself, some of the beautiful kit that we see from people as they walk around, like the actual Sentinel Gate with just people thundering through at high speed ready to kick a Grendel on the other side. It's there's so much that could be done. On the photography side, there is a lot of photographers at Empire. I think I counted, let's see, plus player photographers like myself. I think I counted about 30, just like different names in the photo forum over the year.
Yeah.
Whether they only did it for like one event or all four.
Yeah.
There is a wide breadth of content, knowledge, and visceral showing of the game through the photographs. And don't get me wrong, they are absolutely important. I mean, I wouldn't be here if photography wasn't important.
Yeah, it's an important part of the game. But I think I know what you're trying to say. The video brings another side to it. It doesn't supersede. It doesn't trounce the photographs.
Yeah.
But it's like for us as well. And when you go, I wonder what this Empire thing's like. You see the photographs. Photographs are amazing, and you see people talking about it on the forums. People have done YouTube videos and podcasts. That's great, but because of their conditions, right? You can't film. So trying to get a sense of what it will be like going there for the weekend is tricky when there's no video.
You're very much going in blind without the video showing the life, for example. Like, if there was, like, for example, one of the like favorite trailer images I ever saw was like a picture of like a massive build from Curious Pastimes, like a big long arms, like fey creature with claws and such, just going through lines. Like if I had seen like a war rhino coming out of smoke with just like a massive horde of orcs on either side, I'd be like, I want in, get me in there now. Need in. That is amazing.
Yeah, because you went to a few different LARPs before Empire. The Empire was our first one, and I've got to admit, like it wasn't what I expected in the best way possible. You know, I thought it was going to be a little bit more like, oh, what is this going to be like? You know, these people are vouching for it, but is it going to be super cringe? Is it going to be a field full of drunken idiots, you know, and wanting to win, the actually crowd or something, you know, trying to like tell me I'm playing wrong? And it's not like that whatsoever.
Not at all.
But you can't get that from just the photographs. So what's the difference between the what you can do photography wise with like Empire and another big system like Curious Pastimes? Is there a big difference between them, or do they all tend to follow the same sort of guidelines?
Some of them share quite similar guidelines, like you can't photograph here unless you are specifically, you know, crew members. Some of them is very similar, like you can have player photographers of both Empire and Curious Pastimes, so long as, you know, you follow certain rules, like don't just be like in the face, like you know, be somewhat discreet and don't ruin people's game. Like try not to ask, or do not ask for post photos, because, you know, that's then impacting the game and is very disruptive. Like there are quite a few similarities. Like there's some differences. Like in Curious Pastimes, unless you are on the crew photography side, you cannot take photos on the battlefields or the skirmishes and such. Whereas with Empire, you can like liaise with Tom Garnet, who's like the head photographer on the media team, who can then like throw out some red and black tabards, which you can then go and spend some time doing photos. Like that's a really cool idea.
That is cool.
That is good. Yeah.
Which is how like player photographers like myself are able to get, you know, photos of the skirmishes and the actual like things that go on beyond the Sentinel Gate. And that's another cool thing as well, is with Empire, with that system, is also really easy to get photos of the skirmish crew, who don't generally get that many photos, they've said. Because I went for the Sentinel Gate at my E2, I believe, at the 8 o'clock to 20 past 9 slot. Went out with the actual players, off into the woods. There was a whole role play / potential combat encounter with, you know, prisoners and like a trial going on and such. And then while that's going on, take about 200 photos of that, and then run essentially diagonally across the wooded copse area to the main field, where there is a bunch of Jotun getting absolutely ruffle stomped by Dawn and like Varushka.
Yeah.
But I would then do is stay with the skirmish crew, so I can get the players, coming out of the Sentinel gate and get the crew as they're like getting in and ready. And the crew, like as I was saying earlier, everyone deserves good photo. Crew were saying that we don't really get photographers staying out here and such with us. They normally stick only with the players.
Yeah, they kind of photograph us being getting our asses kicked, and then they leave. they're all through the gate, and they're just like, "Whoa, we've been left by everybody, even the photographers."
Yeah, and I try and make sure that all the crew got good photos of themselves and their kit, because they are equally as important as players. Because without the crew, you can't really have
Wouldn't be any skirmishes.
Yeah.
Unless you go into like one of the other like LARP things where some players come in and crew for a set time as like slots, like monster slots.
Yeah. I'm actually quite interested in that part of the game. Have you ever done anything from the crew perspective? Either photography,
absolutely.
either for the photography or non-photography.
Yeah, so Erda, I was specifically a monster photographer that would just be essentially just this NPC wandering around taking photos.
That's cool.
If it looks like the players are getting absolutely trounced by an encounter, I can then put the camera down and jump in and help out and such. But primarily, primarily therefore, photography, and or if the monster crew do need bodies on like a specific thing, whether it's at night where I can't do photos of pitch black in the woods, or if they really need like combat spots for a specific encounter that might not be photogenic, I can then jump in on with them. The next LARP I did after Erda was a event called No Rest for the Wicked, which is a rogue trader LARP.
Okay.
That one I only really got to experience because there was a event in England, because it's normally in Scotland, which was like essentially just over the hill from where I am.
Nice.
And got invited by a friend that I'd met at Erda. Went and did that. That was me basically as a photo servitor. That was great times.
Yeah.
It was great as well, because like with the crew side of the photography, there's a lot of things obviously that aren't seen, like being able to photograph the crew room where you can see all the weapons laid out, the racks of clothing, masks, items that are related to the plot, just piles of currency and such, just little things that don't usually get photographed that much up.
Yeah, and that's important, right? Because like you said, like we need in these games, we need crew, and I can imagine, like from what I'm hearing from PD, it sounds like that game specifically is like exploding in popularity, and there's so many people coming, and therefore I think that's a sign the hobby is gonna go through this wave, and then there's gonna be demand for more events, because already because we haven't been to a player event yet, and we haven't been to any other LARP, like things like iLARP and that we haven't been to yet, and you kind of have a look at them, and they're just like selling out within minutes,
days.
and you're like, well, you're just like, if more and more people come to this hobby, like we're gonna need people to like
Please,
run
sir.
LARPs.
Can we have more LARP?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's face it. Like, do you not think that, like, honestly, if PD like bought got a new site and they were just like, yeah, we're gonna run 10 events a year, I'm pretty sure every event would be full, right? I'm pretty confident, and if there was a player event every weekend, I'm pretty sure there'll be people at them.
The only problem with them on that side is that, because as someone who has run like cosplay like stages and such, logistics can be a nightmare for stuff like that. Like, sometimes crews get run ragged with just like a small stage. Then you kind of like expand that to like a site-wide thing where you have to plan all the stuff that the monsters are doing over here, all the plot that's going on over here, the logistics of where everyone's camped and such is like,
so
makes my head spin.
So like actually showing what it's like to go and crew and try and making that, because obviously there's only certain numbers of people that can crew, but it's a good idea to start making it accessible now, so people can go, because that's something that I would like, if they got to the stage where it was just like, right, you can only, there's not enough room basically to be a player every event, but you can come and crew for this one, because we need crew. I'd be I know people do that anyway. You know, I know people, like we were saying earlier, like crew for Curious Pastimes to play Empire and vice versa. But if they kind of it'd be good if they like made that very clear and accessible to be like, because I'd be interested in getting like a ref on here and things like that, because I have no idea how you go, right, okay, can I come and monster, or can I come and learn how to be a ref? I don't even know like whether because obviously there's different rules and different systems. I don't know whether the people are just like, oh, I ref all these systems, or whether you have to do a certain thing to ref in another system, you know?
Refing in any system can be a challenge, because obviously there is the plot refs who go and make sure the encounter is running as intended, making sure the monsters have all the information that they would know if a player was to ask them like an obscure question. You have the rules refs who are then like, what does this power do? For one, you're asked for 10 seconds, it's fine. You've got like the refs who are there to make sure like the crew are okay, making sure they're, you know, like respawning in the right place, or if they're in like massive monster builds, like the I don't know what its name actually is, like the Navarre Heart monster with like the big crab claws and such.
Oh no, I can't remember. Was that the one they fought? Did we see one of those at E3?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. We didn't go. It was one of the skirmishes, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, we never went on that one, and I'm gutted we didn't go on that one. Did you photograph that one?
I did indeed.
Oh,
it's in my album.
Photos from that one are just
incredible. No, that's right. So it would have been your photos that I saw of it then, and I was like, oh man, I wish we'd gone on that one, because that looked like so much fun.
Really cool. But like they would have a ref literally stand next to them, making sure that, you know, if blows from like, you know, cleaves and impales from the players, they were making sure to note, you know, hits on the armor before it eventually cracks, so that they can actually stab through and kill it, or checking to make sure the monster inside isn't, you know, dying from being like just haggard by like 30 people around it with long weapons. Like
the monsters, because I've actually, because when I hear about the monsters and I'm like, how does that work? Because that's all I think. I think if everyone just like gangs up, I mean that can't be a great experience for the person playing the monster. Because the only monster that we faced was the endless stalker, and it was pitch black and we got our asses kicked, so there was no gang up on that thing. It was basically just a run away from it type deal. But I've always wondered that. I'm like, because how on earth? Cause I'm assuming, do they have like several refs around them then? Do they, and to count hits?
I would say that would depend on like the actual build. So, for example, the creature with the pincer claws had only one ref because it was just one person inside the suit. It was just a massive, bulky suit with the actual, like, you know, bigger arms with the pincers that it could just casually cleave with every hit.
Yeah.
Whereas like for something like a war rhino, which I haven't seen in play yet, I would assume there is at least two, maybe three refs on it. Maybe even inside, just double checking how it's progressing in terms of like, you know, the battle, because they'll all have like radios, they can communicate how the players are doing and such. I don't know, because obviously I'm not on the ref team for, but that's how I would think it would be run in a logistics way.
Yeah, because I'm just asking, because like you must get like a different, you literally get a different perspective. Being I've got my photographer hat on, and I'm like, you're not seeing what the players are seeing, because let's face it, like the players don't see the photographers, and imagine the monsters don't see the photographers either, so you're seeing it from like outside.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely try and be as inconspicuous as possible. Sometimes it can be a bit hard when it's just like the massive open fields where the main fight is happening here. I'm like, I kind of have to get closer to get some of the shots, but without running into like a formation, obviously.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of them are impressive. Some of your shots are impressive, because it's just like, how did you get that angle? I think there was the ones you took of the Brock's Toll on E2. Some of my favorite like action shots of me doing, and I was like, what angle has he taken that?
Where was he?
Like, were you in the glory square, like lying down? Like what?
I mean,
it must be difficult. It's like, especially the big battles where there's just like acres between the front line and where the photographer must be standing to get a shot.
I mean, for me, I basically only have 2 lenses that I ever take to LARP. One of which is like a 50mm lens, which is for like, you know, nighttime low light stuff and or like the really clear, concise portraits.
Yeah.
Normally on my camera, the one that you've seen me with, which is just the massive honking white lens, is the 28-300, which is, you know, really great for, you know, okay, I'm just going to take a quick shot just while I'm sat down over here and back. And like 300mm is a fair distance for the actual shots. Like, if for reference, if I was in the glory square, I could shoot from end to end and get maybe like 3 of the main flags in.
Oh, nice.
Like, in the frame, like rule of thirds.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
So it's a case of knowing where to position yourself in relation to the actual like lens distance that you're working with. So I oftentimes find myself running around. I'll take a few shots of them at 300mm where they're having, you know, the big, you know, wall versus wall, or, you know, through the monster's line of like the panic on the players' faces when they are seeing, you know, a massive wedge coming into them as they're like trying to do a ritual in the middle. Or I'll go to something like 100 meters, getting a bit closer, kind of like just behind the monster line, but not in it, so I'm not, you know, tripping over anyone if they're going to do like a big charge or anything.
Yeah.
Just so that I can, you know, kind of like tilt it so it's the actual side-on wall versus wall section, like that. A lot of the cases, pretty much just remembering what distance looks like and then positioning yourself around that.
Yeah.
Little things that you pick up just again from practice.
Yeah. Can you take advantage of the? I'm assuming you all do take advantage, because I know for me, like if you're doing combat, you do this tunnel vision thing. Like when you do that recall of what happened, like all, especially the refs disappear from your memory completely. You know, like it's not, you don't think back, oh, this happened at that moment in the battle, and you can't remember a ref standing there, but there was obviously one stood there. I mean, I'm assuming you take a full advantage of that and be like, well, they're focused on what's happening in front of them. I could just stand here and just snap away, and it's not going to break immersion at all.
Yeah, it's very different from a player versus like the actual photographer perspective of that situation, as you say, because as a photographer, I have the ability to essentially interweave myself amongst the players or like the crew and take shots from there.
Yeah.
And, you know, take a few cheeky shots of like the refs and such, so they also get photos of them while they're doing their work. And then I'll be able to essentially just see, okay, so that person over there, the big orc that everyone knows as Connell is giving orders. Okay, so he's about to basically cause them to. Okay, so if I run around this side, I can get them as they're running around towards me to then charge into the players.
Awesome. The only metagaming that's allowed is done by the photographers. I love it.
I mean, to be fair, if I was a player in that situation, I'm always hypervigilant when I'm just by my nature.
Virtue, yeah.
It's very much a virtue. It's like whenever I always laugh when I get given like a virtue card when I've been like, hello, sanctioned. It's like, oh, you are vigilant to every threat around you. I do that already.
Thanks for that. and even if I wasn't, this roleplay effect wouldn't help my actual me as a player either.
Because for me, I always, you know, I'm always on the lookout because of the photography side. I think as well has trained me for that whole looking for opportunities, which absolutely helps in that. Okay, so there's some orcs pushing on the left side. We've got a big line they're holding over there. It's kind of like the I call it Overwatch. I don't know if there's like another name for it and such, where I always try and keep my hand on the swivel just to see what the situation is like. If I need to go reinforce that over there to make sure we have a retreat, or to potentially, you know, go and, oh, there's a few orcs hiding in the bush over there. Just send a couple people over there to distract them while I have like me and like 3 others go and shiv them in the back.
Yeah.
Just so that they don't have their scout forces to report back to the line that's clearly just on the other side there, because I can see their spears waving.
Yeah.
It's is a really helpful skill in both the playing and the photography, because there is that element of tunnel vision where you can only recall certain things.
Oh yeah.
And it just helps in general. I find that you can at least keep most people alive as they are sprinting for their lives back to the gate.
That's the thing. Because some people, I mean, people do seem to forget they're playing a game sometimes. Like it's because when we're talking about the combat, it's well, maybe sometimes not even in the combat. Sometimes in like intense role play, sometimes people just they get caught up in it. It happens in battle all the time, and it's not like, you know, what actual real war is a horrific thing, and it's obviously it's something not to be made light of, but it's probably as close as you're going to get to experiencing what it would be like in those moments, because you get panicked and you get tunnel, and you start hyper focusing on one thing. You're like, oh, they panic, there's some orcs in the trees, and you're like, just look around you, take a breath. It's
the
fine.
adrenaline very much hits at certain points. Like, usually for me, the adrenaline hits when we're doing the full retreat after we've either completed or failed the objectives, because we're trying to get as many people back through the gate as possible. But, you know, we're being hounded by a bunch of Druj off into the left, and we've got like some that are kind of like just doing a little few stabby stabs on the right, who are just trying to knock people down to then draw more people to heal them, so they can then as a force shank them.
Yeah. That's an interesting dynamic with the Sentinel Gate. All right, here's a question. In so Curious Pastimes, do they have something similar to this Sentinel Gate, or is that completely unique to the Empire system?
So that is well, I say unique to the Empire system. There are some like other LARPs out there, like I believe there's like Stargate LARP, where there is like, you know, the safe zone where the humans are, and then they go through, at which point, oh boy. Whereas in like Curious Pastimes, to my personal preference, I prefer this over Empire, which is the areas that we go to in Curious Pastimes, we are going as a war host. So we are essentially a mass of tents in a place that we are at war. So it's not like Anvil, which is a safe town. There is, you know, you've got, like, for example, camp attacks that will happen to every faction.
Oh wow, yeah, okay.
That sounds quite cool, actually.
It does sound cool. Yeah, I think it sounds cool.
You could be sat down cooking yourself a nice fry up, at which point you'll hear rally, 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 and you just gotta like look over, and there's just a horde of beastkin coming around the corner, looking to end everyone in your glade.
Oh, that's cool. That's different. That's pretty cool. Because the Sentinel Gate's weird, isn't it? Because it's like it's good because it sends you everywhere, but it bottlenoses an army completely. So you're all bottlenosed out.
There is the occasional, I say town attack on Anvil, but it's really usually dealt with really quickly. I remember there was a situation that I wasn't there for, but I remember seeing some of the photos, I believe, from Facey, where there was, it was either Concord or Senate, where there was a bunch of people standing around where some kind of portal opened and some essentially eaten bodies were thrown through. At which point, a bunch of shark people appeared and started attacking, like through a portal. However,
shark people.
Yep.
I heard something about shark people. What is it, E4 or something? Something happened with shark people. I was like, what?
It was E3 or E4. I don't actually remember which one. But the other downside, I say downside, like it was like there was forewarning that there was going to be something happening because of, I believe, a ritual that had taken place. So there was like 300 people standing guard, ready if something did happen. So you have like, I think like 20, 30 shark men just come in like, at which point there's just an army just...
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they're dead now.
Yeah.
Oh, they're very. Oh, that was still twitching. Okay, now
Yeah.
they're all dead.
And it's hard not to compare it to the Stargate, because it is a Stargate, and that's how they deal with it in Stargate. Like, they go, oh, an enemy's coming through the Stargate, and they just go, all right, we all either just gang up on them, or eventually they have like the thing that shuts, right? The iris thing that just shuts and just goes, oh well, they can't get through. Haha. So it's so much like that.
Sucks to be you.
You just I know. Well, can you imagine if we made something like that, and you just hear the thud 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 thud. That's them just being splatted. Or just put a pit or something. I don't know, like a grinding pit or something in front of it.
Oh my god!
I'll tell you what. It was like, honestly, I don't know how it would ever be invaded through the Sentinel Gate, especially when we came through at E4 when we were possessed. They showed us no mercy whatsoever. There was like 100 Imperials. I know, there's 100 Imperials. There's like 2 of us walking through, and I didn't even, because you came through and screamed, and there was like 1 person in front of you, Robin, and then I came through, and I didn't even get to do a role play effect at all. Everyone just went, oh, get him! Like, what?
Got shield, get him!
I'm like,
Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, I was possessed, but I found it hilarious that they were just like, no quarter, just I got my shield shattered. They were just like, no, shatter the shield, right? Get him, drag him off, and I'm like, what?
What's happening?
Awesome. Do you guys want to have a little 2-3 minute break? Go toilet, grab drinks. All right, awesome.
I'm all good.
Yeah, right. We'll be back in.
Grab a drink.
Yeah, we're gonna go grab a drink.
That's the thing. I've had a lot of people have been like, yeah, they sent me through an image, and they've sent me through, but they've downloaded it from Facebook, and then they've saved it and sent it to me, and I'm like, do you have the photographer's original link?
Yeah,
because
I
don't want to do any harm to these photos.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good point to jump back in, actually, because to talk about this, because I want to ask you about this. So, like, you mentioned like cosplay before, and going to conventions, and that's kind of what we did a lot of. And so you'll know this, like in the cosplay scene, like there's no cosplay without photography, right? So you go there, and there's almost as many photographers, especially in a cosplay situation.
I kind of disagree a little with that sentiment of there would be no cosplay without photography. I mean, people will still absolutely enjoy dressing up as either their characters or fiction and such.
Yeah.
Photography is just, I think, that cherry on top, especially with something like LARP.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people assume photographers are, part and parcel of the LARP experience. They're absolutely not.
Yeah. I what I mean is, like, so if you have, like, if you got a cosplayer, or you got a cosplay group, they're going to go to the convention. They are most definitely, I know we've said people do want photos of their LARP character, but one of the cosplayers, they will still enjoy it. But a lot of cosplayers are definitely, when we were doing it, were like, we had close friends who were photographers, that we knew their work, and there were times we literally went to a convention and we had our photographer with us. We literally drove them down. That happens a lot. However, in LARP, it's like we're going for the game, and then, oh great, there's photos after the fact. I kind of wanted to ask you, like, do you find there's a difference? We were talking about like people's permissions and downloading photographs. When in cosplay, like, we knew our photographers, we knew their social media handlers, we knew that they it's art for them, and it's their work. So we were always very careful to be like, this is how you credit your photographer, this is how you ask, you don't just edit a photograph. Is that something you struggle with a little bit with LARP, when you're taking pictures of just thousands of people and then going, here's some photographs, and then people are like, just chopping them up and editing them, and you're like, no.
Oh boy, I have a lot to say on this.
That's why I wanted to ask you. Yeah. So I know it's a big thing I know it's a massive thing in cosplay, and it's interesting coming to LARP, and you're basically doing the same thing. You're photographing people in costume, but it's an issue that doesn't seem to be talked about as much.
Yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of people either just don't know, or, to be callous, some just don't care.
Yeah.
Because, as said, they see it as part of the LARP experience, so why should they? I mean, it's part of the game after all. With like photography work, I in that message that I just sent to Robin with all the pictures, I haven't got all the links for each of the photographers. I will go back and get them for you. But there is whenever I, for example, get a picture of me that I really like, which is rare because forever DM, forever photographer, there's always those kinds of like positions.
Yeah.
A lot of the time people don't photograph the photographer, which is one of those things that it happens, and that's fair. But I always make sure to credit whenever I put up like a new picture, like taken by Oliver Facey, with either like a selection or if it's my new profile picture cover photo. My current profile picture is from Green Cloaks, where they had like their own in-house photographer for the site, Studio 13. And I made sure to, throw some change their way, get the actual like photos like on Watermark and such, because I respect their work, but I'll still tag them because they are the original creator. It is their work.
Yes.
A lot of people actually don't know. If you put up a photographer's picture without crediting them, that is technically illegal.
Yeah.
In copyright.
Yeah.
It's again like what Oliver was saying. It's something that coming into LARP, because we again had some very close photography friends within cosplay and had to hear their side of everything. It was just a case of photographers, they should be credited, but also permission should be asked. And that's why I always am like, if I'm going to put an image on a thumbnail or something, it's like, no, we need their permission, because this is their art and their livelihood as well, and they deserve that credit as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's also just like the bare minimum courtesy, in all honesty. Like, if you're going to like take someone's work, the least that you can do is just say this photo was taken by this person. Here is their link if they're not on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I have seen photos of my own taking from other LARPs where they put them up, no credit, no, they cropped out the watermark, which, that irked me.
Yeah.
That irked me. And you get people in the like comments like, oh, this is a cool picture. Where'd you get it from? Oh, just this event.
You're like,
and it's one of those things that it's just downright disrespectful, in all honesty, to not even have the actual credit of the artist who has spent thousands on gear, thousands of hours on their time learning the tricks and the trade to do this for you. And not all the photographers and such ask for money. Some of us do and such, if you want like them unwatermarked or whatever, but come on.
Yeah, I know. You're not asking a lot. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. And it's a two-way street as well, because I see all of you photographers at Empire. You're all very good at saying, "Here's the album," any takedown requests. Like you say. So I don't know what the policy actually is, because obviously when you go to like a Comic-Con, you are, you're at their event, so they pretty much own. Technically they would own all the
copyright
photographs and things like that, but also you're like, and then even walking into the convention, you're in a public place.
It's one of those unwritten rules almost, to an extent, especially with the cosplay side of things, because yes, you are basically giving the license to use those photos for the event because you've taken them at a not public but private event, because they have leased the area that the event is taking place. Therefore, it is no longer public, which means that the whole, people who want their photo taken down can absolutely request that.
Yes.
Because
yeah,
if there's a person who is, let's say, for example, random case scenario, they're in the military, don't want their photo, taken for like privacy reasons and such. If they're out on the streets in public randomly, you can, though if they ask you to take it down, it's just considered polite courtesy.
Of course, yeah.
Whereas if it's a private event, absolutely you are beholden as the photographer to be like, okay, I must take that down immediately.
Yeah. But that's what I mean by it's a two-way. So if people understand that they've got the right to ask you to take the photo down, they should also understand that, yeah, it's not just a given that someone's taking a photograph of you and just like you said, it's not as if we're asking to go, oh yeah, pay me 50 quid for what this one shot. It's like just if you're going to put it on your profile picture, just say, hey, this person took it. You know?
Yeah. And on the note of watermarks and such, it absolutely like depends. Like I've had a bit of a journey in terms of like my watermarking. At first, I didn't watermark them like at all. Like my earliest LARP albums, no watermarking whatsoever. Quite a few of them just got nabbed, uploaded, no credit, no nothing, and that was like, So trialed adding a watermark that was in essentially the bottom left corner, and for a while that worked. Yeah, there'd be the odd crop and such, but you know, they're usually okay with like the tagging. But then you get to some of the bigger events, and obviously with bigger events below 100 people, I'd say it's, you know, you can see who's uploading from the actual event if they're and such. But when you get into the higher hundreds and thousands of people, there are going to be so many people that you cannot or will not be able to interact with, even on just a simple time scale, that will just be like and nab and nab and nab and crop and crop and crop and
crop and I'll take all these photos, put it into a Discord with a lot of random people who then all take it, and they have no idea where it came from, and it's everywhere.
Yep, or people that would just poke their friends with the actual album link and not the like text sprawl that each photographer gives as part of it.
Yes.
So going into, if I may, my own like essentially process.
Definitely go for it.
So whenever I put up an album, it's kind of like changed, mutated, and wrapped around itself over the years, but it's essentially come down to, here is the album or albums, if it's like a large amount of on a multi-day. They are all watermarked, whether it's in the corner or across the middle, which I'll explain a little bit after. Essentially, don't crop out like, the watermarks and such, please, if you can. Don't use any fancy software to get rid of them. You are welcome to nab them with the watermark on for absolutely free. Absolutely welcome to. There are some rules. PM me, takedown requests. You're welcome to use them. Just make sure you credit me. Only tag yourself or people that you know are cool with photos of them being shared. Again, basic courtesies and such.
Stuff,
with mine, you can edit them with like filters and memes and such, but nothing that intrudes on their privacy, safety, or makes me look like an ass with like some of the edits, because there's some spicy memes out there.
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And if you want to pay me, here's how you can pay me. Thank you very much for having me. Just stuff like that.
It's basic stuff, and the thing is, a lot of this stuff people don't. I've honestly, some people are just cheeky, but a lot of people just don't. They don't seem to know. They don't seem to know that it's a thing.
Or they just don't bother reading and go straight into the album.
Yeah, and they just go, "Oh, look, there's a picture of me, on this thing."
Yeah, I call it initial froth, where they just immediately skip past and go, "Oh, album died," boom, and straight in.
Yeah, pictures.
I must admit, I'm guilty of that. I kind of go, yay, albums. And then I look through them all, and then I go back and read the text, because I'm just like, yay, photographs. And it's that sort of froth,
And some people just don't go back and read the text. They just go, okay, yeah, no, that's fine, all good. And then they'll, tag people that didn't want to be tagged or can't be tagged because of work and such. It's like,
it's difficult. Like we found it difficult just doing this, because obviously we've got, we've had people on the podcast and we've done videos and we've made shorts and things like that, and we've requested photographs. Like, oh, if you got any photos of yourself, that's great. And people have literally sent us like a load of photos, and like, oh, like who took these? And they're like, oh, I don't
some
know.
Guy, some person.
You're like, I actually had a comment on YouTube today, I'll be transparent. I had a comment on YouTube today from another podcast we did, and they went, "Oh, you've missed a credit from this person," and I credited like I've got like 17 people credited. Yeah, because literally they sent me photographs, and I was just like, "Oh, who took them?" And they didn't give me the names. They gave me a couple of names. I was like, "Oh, cool." But yeah, missed a credit. So sometimes that happens as well, you know. But
we've got like we've got a spreadsheet set up with because you've had one of the messages from me. I've got the general message that I send out to photographers to be like, can I use your images? And I've got this long spreadsheet, and then next to it is all their socials and their links. And there's so many people on it. But then like every so often a new name will come up, and I'm like, that name's not on the spreadsheet. Who is this person, and how do I find them? yeah. But yeah, and I will say to anyone listening, like if you ever see any work that we haven't credited, please let me know, because but then that's the thing. It's obviously it's not great for the artists, because they're like, we're showing their work and not crediting them, and we're getting views and all this. It's frustrating for us, obviously, because if that person then says, look, I don't want, you haven't asked for permission, we shouldn't be using it. And we then, I'm sure everyone's, we're lovely people. All photographers we met are lovely people. But yeah, they could just be like, no, take the whole video down. That's a pain in the butt for us as well. And it's just because obviously someone's like gone, oh yeah, this is just a photo of me in LARP gear. And like you said, it's pretty straightforward to rectify. Oh, exactly.
Absolutely.
It's so easy to be like, oh, I didn't realize, or sorry, I didn't read the text. I will go rectify that now. And then it's fine. But it's those who maybe don't care as much. And I guess that must be a frustrating thing that
there's been a few people that I have chatted with about photos and such that have just nabbed them. It's like, it's just a photo or whatever. It's like,
just a photo.
Deep breaths. Is the person worth it?
The thing is, it's a shared experience between you and all other photographers, though, as well, isn't it? So it's something that you have to constantly combat.
I like what you do, though, the fact that because you've got them on, it's Flickr that you've got them all on, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And the good thing about Flickr is that if you want to share an image with someone, you do the way that it works is you end up sharing the link directly from Flickr itself, which means instead of them just receiving an image, they receive the link to that image, which takes them straight to you, which is so much easier.
Oh, really? I never knew that.
Yeah, no, because I've shared it a few times, and instead of like downloading them, because then, what's the point?
The only downside with that, though, is when people, let's say, for example, I'm part of the Embercast in Navarre, someone will share, let's say, a link to a photo that someone's taken on Flickr, for example.
Yeah.
And they'll put it in Discord. It doesn't have, obviously, all the text that came from the original post as part of it. So you'll get all these these links being spread around like Discords, messengers and such, but not the original post with all the information that would be needed or wanted in that case.
Yeah. It's stuff like, so we can't empathize completely, but we can definitely sympathize in the fact that we, like, when we were cosplaying, like I said, we had photographer friends, and there were like small conventions, especially when there was like that big like convention boom where there was like conventions every weekend, and there were times where they would just be like, oh yeah, come and hang out in our cosplay corner, and then they just used like this photographer's photo from the previous year, and we're all just like commenting on the thing, being like, just putting the credit in, just being like, yeah, by the way,
it used to be annoying enough when models weren't credited, when like an image would come up and it would be the other way around, and it would be like an image of, because I've seen like a few of my friends, I've been like, that's my friend there on that poster, because we literally saw one of our friends on a poster at one of the Comic-Cons, and I was like, does he know that's there?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. And he had no idea either.
And we were like, hey, by the way, you're on a big poster in London. He was fine, but still, that was a biggie.
Yeah, that could be a problem if he was not cool with it. Yeah, absolutely. It's that thing as well. It's why, for me personally, as well, because obviously there's so many, you see it all the time on Facebook where people, or even companies, will share like a funny video or a picture or a meme or something, share it on their own profiles. Or like, let's say, biggest example I've ever seen it with is art comics. Someone that's drawn like comics of a funny skit or situation that's happened.
Yeah.
They'll share those pictures of that comic, and then you'll see like somewhere deep, very deep in the comments, oh, here's the person that did that, because they haven't shared the actual credits. It's like, these are big companies that are doing this. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's even worse. That was the thing. That was especially with these like conventions that were obviously like trying to sell tickets for their next event, and it's just like, it's one thing like just taking someone's photograph and then to use it as promotional image. You're just like, oh, but it's amazing how many, like you say, it's like big companies, how many people just slip up on that and just go, oh, here's a picture, I'll just use that.
So circling back around to what I was going to talk about, which was my new watermark.
Yeah, tell us about that. Yeah.
So a lot of people, I say a lot of people, a few people have kind of pushed back against it, because you may have seen from my albums, it's now across the middle and translucent. It's still very visibly there, but it's across the middle. That is essentially what I came up with as I say a way to combat that rise, but a way to essentially make sure the work that I put in is protected.
Yeah.
In a way that, one, makes sense, and two, isn't necessarily a piss take, because obviously, as I said earlier, the watermark used to be bottom left, quite clear text, usually not covering anything because it's bottom left corner. There's usually nothing of importance there. And time again, people, whether through like Facebook's really weird cropping, or would just actively cut up the image, would remove it, and it's like, and with me, I've actively gone into the full self-employed business of photography.
Yeah.
So literally anyone that takes an image that is unwatermarked, apart from like bottom left corner and such, crops it and then puts it up, that is £1, because all my photos are £1 digital.
Yeah.
That is £1 that I will never see.
Yeah.
Potentially, unless they're a good person and they go, oh, I can pay for this, right? Yeah, sure. Because that has happened sometimes, where people have retroactively gone back and done that.
Yeah, I think we did with yours actually. I think it was. That's
the very first time, because I've been sent. This is when we were like brand new, and we got sent a load of photos, and I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to put them on my Instagram. And then I think you'd like sent me a message with the text. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And then we went back.
But that was one of those examples where we didn't see it. We didn't get them from Facebook. It was from
you got them from
random
Discord. Random person being like, look at this. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, and it happens a lot, and it's one of those things that on trying to make it a self-employed business that was at least somewhat financially viable, is obviously I want people to have the memories. That is why I got into the photography, is I want people to absolutely have good shots of themselves where they look fantastic and have the greatest of memories from their events.
Yeah.
I also want to pay my own bills and, afford living in this capitalist society.
Yeah. That's the thing. This is why a lot of, this is why it's difficult to be an artist, right? Is because a lot of people who start out, and we've had photographer friends who had a dream of being full-time photographers, but you can't just be like, oh, I'm an amateur photographer, therefore I won't, it annoys me that this person's using it without credit, but I won't take those steps, or I won't act as if, look, my work is worth something, because I'm not yet professional. But you have to start as you mean to go on, because then you never, once you decide, oh, right now I'm going to have to try and make some money out of this and actually pay my bills with it, then you have to like change everything. You have to be like, oh, now actually, could you please not use my photographs? Whereas if you start that way, and then it's way easier.
So I will say I think I am an anomaly in the LARP photography section, where I think I'm one of the few photographers who are actively only doing it as self-employed. Which is also a weird position to be in, because there'll be some people who are like, you shouldn't be charging for your work. What are you doing? Because again, art is work. Some people just see it as part and parcel of the experience. And it's one of those things that I try not to tread on anyone's toes, because I just, as a person, don't like doing that in general.
No.
But there are times that I do have to be like, I do need to keep doing this, because one, I want to keep doing this for the rest of my days, so everyone can get good photos of them and can have the best possible memories. And like I say, it's a quid per photo. It's not as if that's not even a pint in the current climate.
No, it's nothing. Especially if you're just like, oh yeah, I like this one, and this one. It's like £3. To have a decent version of that photograph. Because I mean, you go to like MCM Comic Con and go, all right, I want a picture with some crappy Thor's hammer that they've got there, and then they charge you £20 for it. You just like it. It's just a picture of us, the family. Like, look at us with Thor's hammer, and it's crap. And then the thing is, you can still go through your albums. You can go through your albums, Oliver Facey's albums. You can still go through there and look at them. You're not charging people to look at the photographs.
The watermark situation, there was a period where I didn't allow anyone to download off of Flickr, because there was a mass essentially album grab of I think it might have been my Curious Pastimes E2 album, where there was a lot of people that did not read the post and just took the images straight up without the credits and such. And obviously, Curious Pastimes being a slightly larger system, I was like, I can't contact all these people individually. Something has to change. Which is where putting it across the middle and translucent, it doesn't completely obviously destroy the image, and it can't be easily cropped out.
Yeah, I mean, I got to admit, it's something I would do if I not that I'm any expert in this, but yeah, your one's ideal, because even if like someone uses it and that they don't ask for your permission, it goes, oh, here's a picture, and it just shows up on someone's Instagram feed or their short Instagram reel or something like that. It's going to have, even though they've not credited you in the thing, it's going to have your credit.
The credit in the image.
Photograph,
yeah, because it's translucent. Like you said, you can see the image, and I like where it is in the middle, because I remember there's been a couple of times we've been editing videos and it's been like late at night and we're releasing the next day, and I'm like, oh, we need a photo for this, and I found one of your images, and I've been like, yeah, that's great, because the watermark's right there in the middle. Everyone can see it. I've sent you a message, I think, a couple of times to be like, hey, can I use this?
And you're always welcome to.
It's and it's showing you off, and it looks, it's just so eye-catching, just having that right in the middle. And to be fair, I don't see why people would be angry about having that. It's your livelihood, and it's what you have, it's something you're giving back to those people, and it's pretty wonderful. So I mean,
this is why we want to have you on, partially to talk about this, because it's something we're very sensitive to, making content about Empire specifically, because they have a no, like, you're not supposed to record, right? So as content creators ourselves, we can't go in there with our video camera and vlog everything, right? So if we're making content, we are literally relying on you guys to give us our visuals for stuff. If we're talking about it, be like, we need a picture of what we're talking about, because we don't have any footage. We might have a quick smartphone thing before time in near our tent, and that's it. We're relying on you.
That's actually a question I had for you guys in terms of being content creators and having Empire stuff. The rules about not recording, does that include before time in and after time in on Sunday?
I think it does. I think you basically, they're like,
moment you're on fields on site.
But so from what I can gather, from what I read, and I did, like, when we started this thing, before we went to our first event, I emailed He emailed PD and just went, "This is what we're planning on doing." I didn't say anything because we weren't going to film anything. We didn't. But I said, you know, we have a podcast. We're getting into LARP. We're going to be talking about LARP. Is there anything in particular that, you know, is like you don't want us to talk about? Is there basically just opened a dialogue, and they were great.
Yeah.
From what I gathered, it's like what I read. Filming wise, it's okay if you basically ask, like, but basically go to them and say, we're looking at filming, and even then they're a little bit like, if it's in your tent, that's fine, you know. And I think most people get away with like tent adjacent, but I think one thing they're very strict on is don't walk around.
Yeah,
videoing.
My understanding was, when I was looking through it all and reading it, because I was kind of trying to get some content time out sort of thing, and my understanding was inside your tent is fine as long as everybody's given permission, and as long as it's not an in-character thing that's happening. If it's like a quick, like, you know, this is my kit, this is my setup, and if it's a quick, you know, walk around the shops before time in, showing off different shops, it's fine as long as you're not filming people without their permission and it's not time in. That was my understanding, because we've got little videos and things out there, but it's always like, you know, look, this is our tent, this is our copious amounts of alcohol for the weekend. And I think I took some little videos on like Thursday evening when like a group of us are sitting in a tent playing a game, but
playing
it's
D&D,
you know,
or something.
yeah.
We
were the nerds that played D&D at LARP.
that thing's all fine. And I'm saying, obviously, because there's no film, we're relying on you guys for our visual, a lot of our visual aspects and things like that, if we're talking about it. But the no filming, like no just random filming from non-photographers and non-videographers, is something that I actually agree with in game. I'm definitely not calling for, oh yeah, I wish me and Robin could walk around as our characters just filming all our interactions. That's not what I want at all, because the game, it would just take away from the game so much, and it would just, it's a very well, do you find it's quite an intimate thing? I find, do you find it that way? Like, and I mean intimate as in like it's moments that you probably wouldn't get if it was all filmed, or if it was on a stage at a Comic-Con or something, you know?
I mean, there's always gonna be those little interactions, granted on a much larger scale at Empire, of just the little moments, like the as I was saying earlier, the person drinking a cup of coffee outside their tent, like on the morning of time in and such. There's always going to be just the little moments that will happen, and especially with 3,500 people, it's going to be just happening constantly everywhere around, with no way to capture it all. In terms of like the actual like spontaneity and such, that's just LARP in general. It's LARPers will be LARPers and will have, you know, their role play moments that they've, you know, planned and or just had like information given to them from like a letter, and they'll just jump into action and do it or such. Like there's always going to be just that moment around you if you know where to look.
Yeah. So obviously, like we asked you right at the start of this, like what came first, the LARP or the photography? How much of the game is taken up by just? Do you find photography as part of your game, or do you go, right, I've got photographer hat on, and now I've got player hat on, and I'm going to play, and then I'm going to photographer?
So for me, I very much play and photograph at the same time, unless it is specific instances. So when I'm wandering around Anvil, I am Varric the Wanderer. I just have my camera with me, my little pixie box. And I will go and I will do all my interactions. I will photograph while I'm just wandering around and or you know, chatting with individuals. Obviously not them, but some potentially like, oh, there's a few people talking over by that Varushkin like caravan over there. I'll take a quick shot of that. But if it's something like the battle and such, like there are there are rules for the actual battle and skirmish photography, as mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The battle ones get taken up like that in terms of the slots.
Yeah.
And for me, the battle is my playtime, because I do enjoy a good scrap every now and then, and with the fact that you don't know who's battling until you get there, it's because like the schedules for like photography go up a few weeks in advance. Like Tom is on it. At which point it's then a case of, okay, do I pick Saturday or Sunday to do the battle photography, not knowing if I'm gonna be.
Oh, of course you don't know, do you?
Yeah.
That's you just gotta be like, I'm hoping we're gonna be fighting Druge on this day. So I can actually fight. Yeah, that
And
must
there's also the other aspect as well, where at least at the minute, photography doesn't count for the social contract. So if I was to, let's say, pick Saturday and it coincided with Navarre fighting, I could then, go fight on the Saturday, but I would, by the social contract, go and monster on the Sunday and not photograph, because photography doesn't count towards the social contract.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah.
So yeah, you've almost got to. Well, in fact, actually, I think another photographer who's in Dawn was like, I think
he told us.
they told us about that, because they were like, "Oh, I'm monstering against you," and we're like, "What?" And it was exactly what you're saying. They were like, "Oh, I photographed yesterday, so I have to monster against my own nation if I want to if I want to go out and fight." We're like, "Oh, great."
I mean, there are some people who will be like, I'll just do it and then play. It'll be fine. But that again, the breaking a social contract. You don't want to be that guy.
We don't want to make a habit of saying it's fine, because it's not fine, really.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I would like to say it's not the end of the world, but if everyone has that attitude, then.
Because there'll be some people that will be like, they'll take part in their fight on Saturday and go, "Hey, we had a great fight, we had a good job, we succeeded all the objectives." They get drunk and just pass out and then sleep through the battle on the Sunday. So Sunday's monsters are like numbers and mismatched, and it's like,
honestly, it really is. It's been the only thing so far that's become one of my sort of pet hates when I'm going out, is if we've been out, battling on the Saturday, and then we're heading out to monster on the Sunday, and I see a load of people who are sitting around. I'm like, you were definitely fighting yesterday.
Yeah.
Get your butt out there.
Yeah, no, you do see them. You do see them.
yeah, and it's one of those things that LARP is a very collaborative hobby. Like, it does need to have its volunteers, at least for now, in that aspect of it works if we work together.
Yeah,
it literally does, right? Even just like the I mean, like I said, we've only played Empire, but even the rule set of like, it's all like trust, it's basically trust based, and it's like you've got to trust in each other to be like if I throw a throwing weapon at someone, you've got to trust that they
will took
the hit, because I've spent resources taking the throne skill. It's just a hypothetical, but it's otherwise, what are we doing? We're playing pretend, right? So like if people are cheating, then why are you even? Because what are we doing otherwise? There's no trophy at the end to be like, well done, you lasted to the end.
There's no one on a podium like, congratulations, you won LARP. It's like, no.
I'm pretty sure people do think that's a thing, especially in D&D. I'm pretty sure people do think that there's some accolade out there. But I mean, well done, you've been playing D&D for the longest and the best. There you go.
You win.
You win Dungeons and Dragons, right? No more D&D for anyone else. how you do like a low, because when I've gone through like your albums, then I've actually gone through your albums just to be like, because we've never been to player events or anything like that. So end of this year, I went through some of your albums just to be like, oh, what I'm just going to get a sense of like the other LARPs and the other player events and what's going on. How many there's a lot on there. How many do you do?
So many.
Oh boy. So to put it in perspective, this year, photography wise, I did 46 events.
What? That's even more than I thought.
Sleep.
As an insomniac, that's an interesting question.
I don't
know.
That
you do these events and you take so many photos at each event.
You treat your body like a temple, I treat mine like an amusement park. It's one of those things.
Oh, I know you don't sleep, because like you do it because you Twitch stream as well, don't you?
I am a Twitch streamer. It's the other half of my business, yeah.
And I remember you did a like a, was it like a 12-hour stream or something, where you at the end of it, I think I popped into your stream at the end. You go, oh, I'm so tired, and then like 6 hours later, the next day, you're like just back at it playing D&D. I'm like,
yeah.
He was like shouting through. He was like, Ben streaming again?
So that was my birthday subathon stream. It was originally a 12-hour stream that could be extended another 12 hours depending on if people, subbed, gave bits, donated. I made like a chart of goals for like each sub up to 100 would have like different awards, or every 5 would have like a big thing or such. And just for funsies, I put it up. I did like stretch goals up to 1,000, like a very Kickstarter kind of thing. Like it'll never go above 100, no way. 200 subs later, plus bits and donations. It was. The timer had a max of 12 hours, like added on. Like I made sure it didn't go over 24 hours.
Yeah.
Do you want to know how long was potentially left with more subs?
How long?
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
At what point did you start to hate this list that you created?
Yes. It was.
It said there, I hate past me.
Why did I do this?
But it was a great stream. It was funny. It was worth it. And yeah, I slept, I think, like 4 hours, and then did a TTRPG stream as like a conclusion to my Star Wars campaign that I ran. And
I couldn't believe it, because I remember being at the end and you were just like, "Oh, I'm going to bed finally." And then like the next day, like it's like I was like, he was up like 4 hours ago. Like,
I tell you, he's streaming. What's he doing?
How was he streaming? I would have cancelled. I would have been like, "Look, I'm not doing TTRPGs. No, not today."
I survive on commitment and spite.
So Twitch, because like I say, you've gone like full time out on your own. So like things like Twitch are great because it gives you all another potential revenue stream. Absolutely.
So it was weird when I decided to go completely self-employed, telling the job centre, no, I'm not searching for more work. I'm making this a thing.
Yeah.
We were just coming out of, I think, like the Christmas lockdown back in 2020, and Twitch was really good to me over 2020, especially after March, because everything kicked off, everyone was stuck at home, and they were just looking for something to do while stuck at home.
Yeah.
And a lot of streamers got a really good start, because with streaming, it's very luck-based, especially in the beginning. Got a good start in 2020 because of the Rona. And it got to the point for some where it literally kickstarted careers of full-blown, like, many thousands of viewers per streamers. Again, that's very luck-based. Twitch is the worst with discovery compared to something like YouTube and such, because if someone like watches like your podcast once, it will recommend you your channel again in the future, or your kind of content adjacent, like other LARP playlists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you came out with like, so let's say like you came out with a LARP video, and we did a collab, and then we were making similar content. If people watched us, they would get recommended.
Yeah, YouTube's algorithm would go, more LARP for them now. At which point it would then throw like 50 different like recommendations towards you, because the algorithm is weird. Whereas on Twitch, you get like maybe 6 recommended channels. That's it. If you don't have hundreds or thousands of viewers and you like want to be found, you have to hope that someone clicks on the category, sees the other 500 streamers with more viewers than you, because it goes off the viewer metric and goes all the way down to where you are and goes, I kind of like the title or the look at the profile picture. Sure, let's try it.
Yeah. You literally have to search, and then even then you're going to have to be in a niche. It's one of the only like platforms where they say you're better off being niche, because you're just easier to find, because people can just literally type in Dungeons and Dragons, and then because if you type in Fortnite, you're just never gonna get found, you know. It's just
Yeah,
not-
there's like 15,000 like Fortnite streamers currently, probably live right now on Twitch,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
not even just streamers, just actually live. You know, no, it doesn't make
yeah.
sense because that's the only place where I've like been recommended like FIFA or something. And I'm just like, what is this on? Why is this
Why?
on my? What makes you think I would have any interest
Twitch,
in
you
that?
okay?
Yeah, whenever I go into Twitch, yeah, it's something like that, like someone playing FIFA or someone playing Fortnite, someone playing something that I'm like, not only do I know nothing about this, but I've never searched this or clicked onto a single one of these videos.
That's
Some
enough.
D&D or LARP people.
Yeah. And then if you want to find like new, content creators to watch on the Dungeons and Dragons aspect, you then have to type in Dungeons and Dragons, go past Critical Role because they always have the most viewers and such, and the other, like the actual Dungeons and Dragons channel themselves, and all the other who are like sponsors or like content like partners of Wizards of the Coast and such, to then go to like indie streamers, and then you've got a bunch of people trying to be next Critical Role, a bunch of people just doing it just because they can stream it, just so they can go back and watch it later for notes, and the people that are trying to make it a show. And again, the discoverability is like not there. You can click on a thing and then you'll kind of just see the screen. There's no information really about them besides the about me and all the panels. Then you have to hope they've done all the panels down below and they haven't just left it blank and they filled in some information.
It's useful. Like it's been fun for us. It's one of those that we're not like, we're basically just spreading everything out. We're just like, oh, this is why we don't stream the podcast currently, but then we have we've done like live chats, and we'll do an impromptu like, oh, we'll do a live chat about LARP, and people like just showing up just to hang out. But it's usually people, like you say, it's very rarely is it just randoms just jumping being like, oh, what is this that they're chatting about. It's usually people that we know, or someone from a Discord server that has seen that we're doing it and jumped in and been like, oh, this, it's like you said, discoverability is not
Absolutely
not great on it.
Yeah, a lot of like even like main content creators of nowadays are like, if you want to get big on like Twitch or other social media, you have to make content on the other social media sites around it to then drag them to you. And it's like it's like when you were saying earlier about being a YouTuber, and I just kind of just crumpled it a little. It's like there's so much of that comes into it now, and it's it makes my head dizzy.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it can really overwhelm. I don't know how you feel about it, but it can be very overwhelming, especially when you start focusing on the numbers. Like you have to, and I know I've got a fair few content creator friends, of all varying levels of numbers, but there's a lot of them sometimes you can just see, and you kind of want to say something, but they're just in that spiral of worrying about numbers. The algorithm hates me. I did this video and I thought it was amazing, and the algorithm shat on me, and it's just like, think about making. And I say it to myself, I'm just like, don't worry about how that video did. Just make a good video. That's all we need to do. Just make a good podcast. Just that's all we need to worry about. Don't care how many people like it. It's
Absolutely.
something you've got to take stock of at some point, but just to see how you're doing. But it's like I think it's equivalent to like an athlete just staring at the scoreboard all the time and being like, what's the score? What's
the
score?
numbers game with Twitch and other content platforms is I think it is honestly for most new streamers and content creators the biggest mental hurdle to overcome.
Yeah.
I remember my first 3 years of streaming, because I've been doing this for 5 years in total. I was absolutely worried anytime my number count dipped below 10. Because 10 is that perfection mark for me as an early streamer. If I don't get above that, I'm clearly doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? Let me revitalize my channel 15 bloody times in a row to try and get to that metric again. And then doing something completely inane gets you like 20 viewers at one point, and you go, okay, I'll do more of that at some point. You go back to it, and it's like 5 viewers, and it's like,
It's like you said,
studying the email they send you after with all the information and going through it all. Yeah, the analytics.
Yeah, we got caught in that trap when we first started, because obviously we jumped onto it. Luckily, we had friends that helped us out with just getting set up on the being affiliated with Twitch. But quite honest, and that was when we were like, and then you start getting hyper focused on numbers. Oh, we're almost at affiliate, this, that, the other. And to be honest, now, which is we don't really pay much attention to it, apart from actually just going on doing the streams and having fun and hanging out.
I think it's an almost unconscious trap that some people fall into, is they see the numbers for the affiliate and then go, okay, now I target partner immediately. You just go, there is a big jump from affiliate to partner at that point.
Yeah. It is huge.
And is that something you want to do as well? You know, because and partner's not. I'm that much of an expert on it, but partner's different now from what it maybe was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. You know, 5 years
not
ago.
really. There's some partners that I follow avidly because they're great content creators who have like 15 views every stream. Like Mr. Weeble, one of the most well-known, awesome musical comedian, like old school YouTubers, millions of views, millions of subscribers. He gets like 20, 30 views max on his Twitch streams.
Yeah.
And he just has a whale of a time being himself, just doing whatever on stream, whether it's you know, showing off, making music videos, or just playing with the community. It's a lot of people, especially those who want to make this a career. As someone who currently has it as a career, a lot of people go for the gold rush, the grinds that if I work absolutely at it constantly, consistently, I will absolutely be made a partner within like a year or something, and it's not. It's not. It's very much a case of luck. It's very much a case of making sure that you're not essentially grinding yourself down with doing.
What are the reasons for doing it? If being a partner is the only thing that you want, then fair enough. But if you like, I mean, say for us, I mean, we do a variety of, just like we do, you know, we chat, and then we have our podcast, and then we talk about LARP, and we do our D&D stuff. It just so happens we're really into LARP now. Our LARP stuff gets a lot more traffic, and I'm enjoying doing it. But sometimes I'm just like, oh yeah, maybe we should be doing more of this because this is what people are like. And you're like, is that what I want to do though? You know, is that maybe we should be doing short form content instead of long podcasts? I'm like, no, but I start the podcast because I enjoy the long form podcasts, not because that's where the numbers came from.
So long as you're enjoying yourself, people will come and they will see that, and then they will have a good time themselves, which will make them more inclined in coming back. Like, if you're just grinding yourself down and getting properly angry and screaming and such, like, some people find it funny, like Tyler One, where you will just see him blink out of existence because he screams so hard. Like, some people are into that, like. But you know, for a lot of people, everyone's enjoyment varies, and there's so many different people, so everyone's interest varies. Sometimes you will not find your community for a while. It didn't happen with me for ages. It didn't, and especially as well, we are variety streamers. We stream different things. We do different things. That's actually a perfect thing. I had a friend, Behaving Beardly, who had Overwatch as his main game for ages, which was like thousands of viewers per stream. Moment you stop playing Overwatch, 50, 100 maybe. But those people stayed specifically for him and not the game.
They're the ones you want, right? This is the thing. You want more of those.
And with variety, if you, for example, like change it up every week, you're not going to potentially get those same people back because they're there specifically for that thing, not specifically for you, unless you made a rapport.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, because I streamed some like MMOs, and because I just like if I'm doing video gaming, like you said, we're variety streamers, just like you. So it's like, I'll jump from game to game, but sometimes people will like jump in and be like, oh yeah, and they're just really into that game, and it's just like, and then you stream something else, they're like, oh, you're not playing that anymore. I'm like, nah. But
I had that when I did Dark Souls.
But you don't, because again, you want, like, I want the people that are here to be like, because they like hanging out with us, not because, you know, they just like me sitting playing that specific game. And one of my favorite things as well, it doesn't happen loads, it's on a smaller scale, but it's just my favorite thing ever, is when, and you know, Robin and I, we like making friends, right? Like, but we're always, even in our like you know, physical lives and physical friends, like we're never like, oh, these are my college friends, these are my school friends. We're always like, everybody come together. So all of our D&D friends, cosplay friends, and LARP friends, we're not like, oh, that's LARP, that's D&D. We're all just like, oh, come and enjoy all this shit with us.
Yep,
you know.
I approve. I fully 100% approve on that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it having like seeing people in our chat that are there because we played D&D with them years ago, and we used to stream D&D with them, and they're in our current like LARP stream, and they're like interacting. That's just they're
chatting with all the new LARP people we met, and it's just like everyone's just branching out and meeting people.
Exactly, awesome.
And they're there because they're friends with us, and not because, oh yeah, I'm interested in this. Like some people are, I'm interested in this LARP thing, so I'll come have a listen. But they're the people I want in my. And you want much more of them. I prefer 300 of them than 3,000 randoms that just enjoy me playing Fortnite because I'm saying the right things. You know.
Absolutely. Again, like a lot of people will be drawn to. Specifically, like there are some people out there who will literally follow you just because you say their name on stream. There will be some people who will follow you because you actually read out their comment, whereas a lot of other streamers just don't and just sit there with a controller playing a game, but they're just broadcasting it to the internet because they can.
Whatever.
And like you have some people that, again, you do it perfectly with the cultivating the actual community together of getting like-minded people that you. At the end of the day, we're all friends. Like, it's a case of we're gonna meet each other because of the awesome circumstances of things like LARP, D&D, and our previous histories.
Yeah.
And just come together as a community with that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, such a cool thing. And your streams, you do, because you do streams for your. Like you mix them, don't you? So you have like photo editing streams as well, which I think is a really cool idea.
I really love your photo editing streams. And there's been a couple of times that I've like taken like a screenshot of you streaming your photo editing to send to people whose photo it is. So I can be like, they're editing your photo.
Yeah, like get in the chat and say hello. Chat.
Oh yeah, that is that's actually something new I've had to bring in. But like the whole thing with the photo editing streams, I tried that back in the day because I wanted people to have the sneak peek. Absolutely, like just seeing people coming in from Empire, Curious Pastimes, all the other like systems that I've done, and just being able to just chat, chill, shitpost, and just go through the events just on a chronological order, at least from my perspective, is amazing. It cultivates that group who kind of like reminisce in the chat, like, oh, we did that really cool thing. Yeah, that was awesome. And the people who are just like, wait, I can't wait to see that moment where he fell on his ass. It'll be hilarious.
Yeah. And again, it's like it's a chill. Obviously, it's work. It's technically work for you, but it just feels like, because when I saw that, I was like, that feels like a no-brainer because it's editing. It's editing. You're going to sit and do it anyway, and you're on your PC anyway. You may as well have just a chill, like, oh, and then you got people looking at your work, and also like go, circling that back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, this is an art form. It's not just a click. Oh, here you go get it processed at Boots or something, and you're
literally showing everybody the work that you're putting into each image and the thought process as well behind it when you're looking at an image and deciding how this is going to work, what you're going to do with it, how you're going to give this person in the image that you may not know at all the best possible image from this event. And it really just shows everybody the amount of dedication that you're putting into it. Again, it shows that it's worth it.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that I'm surprised other photographers don't do. I can maybe think about it in that they're too busy with work, because as I say, a lot of other photographers, they do that as like a side thing, and then they do like I know some photographers do like IT work, or they work in, retail and such. There's some people like who will just not have the time because of family or other commitments in their lives, and I get it.
Mind you, it doesn't come naturally to some people. That's the thing. Again, stream. We're talking about photography being like an art form, like streaming, like putting yourself out there, just in general. Even for people that go to like LARP events, that you have to do a bit of improv, like the camera and putting yourself on camera and just talking to yourself, especially because most of us stream. Just we're the only person talking, so that's not actually a natural thing to do. So that might be a hurdle as well, that some photographers are like, no, I like the idea of it, but
there's a few photography streams I've seen that is literally just click, drag some sliders around, next one, click, and it's one of those things that it's for me, it's something that I've obviously learned over 5 years of streaming, that it's just one of those things that I try to do my best to entertain as well as do the editing, because it's all about, yes, it is a sneak peek for people for the actual events, for them to come and have a good look at and see potentially photos of themselves. But it's also that community building of gathering everyone together and going, hey, look at these 2 images of someone going, I can make that into a GIF, so you could have it as like a bonk GIF or something. And like, it's just the thing of continuing that level of social interaction and gathering everyone as friends together to just have a party and essentially see some works quickly. There have been some times, going back to what Robin was saying, where I have noticed people have print screens the stream and not done the whole sharing so that people come by and watch. They've actually seen a photo of themselves, and because it's a sneak peek where it doesn't have the watermark, they have print screened and stolen the shot.
Oh my god, what?
From the actual
quality there. Screenshot of a screen.
Yeah. It has happened 3 times so far to my count, that people have print screened a photo that I'm editing, specifically just in the stage that it's finished, and they've cropped it and put it on like
shared it. Oh, what? Oh man, yeah.
Especially after they must have sat and watched you and listened to you as you're like, oh yeah, and I'll do this and I'll do that, and I've put all this time into this image, and then it's just like boom.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Like you said, the effort's minimal to, like I said, some people just don't know, but the effort is minimal to want to ask. Then it is to like screenshot something, then crop it and then post it.
After the third one, I did have a thing where I essentially put in the corner, please don't print screen these photos and upload them. And the AgentBSmith watermark again across the middle of the screen, specifically on my OBS overlay, so that if they do,
that's a good idea. So we'll put all the links to your Twitch channel and your Flickr, your
thank you.
Remember, whatever.
It's all whatever.
It's just part and parcel. This is just some photographer that I can't remember his name there. But we'll put all the links.
He presses a button. I look good. It's fine. Whatever.
It's fine. Just a picture, isn't it? Yeah, just a picture. Is there anything? Any other projects or anything that you want to plug at all while you're here?
So at least at the minute, photography wise, I currently have actually I can double check because it's on my other monitor. 1, 2, 3, 10. 28 events currently pre-booked for 2023. So if you want me to photograph your events, I am more than happy to. Just get in contact through the AgentBSmith or just poking me on Facebook. So I try and be as open as possible with my business. Streaming wise, I'm planning on doing a 24-hour live stream over Christmas. Specifically because there are a lot of people, for whatever reason, spend Christmas alone, and I want to essentially offer them a place to come and relax and just chat, chill, to spend
really
Christmas with someone.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
That's absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on. It's been great insight in photography and Twitch. Hopefully you'll come back on again, because there's still a lot I want to delve into with that.
Definitely.
It's like
thing.
It's a whole nother, that's the thing, it's a whole nother world. It's a whole massive part of the hobby of LARP. But like I say, coming from cosplay, we knew it was that there's a whole world to it. So yeah, no, thanks you very much for coming on.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Again, we'll put all your stuff down below. Right, we'll say goodbye to the podcast, everyone. Right.
Bye
Everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you go check out AgentBSmith. Make sure you give him a follow. If you enjoyed this show, give us a like, leave us a comment, leave us a review, share it around, and why not check out some of the other podcast episodes that we have already done. We love you and take care of yourselves.